Hello, dear friends. I'm Marina, and today we have a live talk about some practical astrology. So, thank you very much to everyone who have joined me live, to everyone who will watch the recording later. We're going to talk about something very interesting because this is how astrology works in practice. We are going to analyze a concrete chart. We have a volunteer, and to keep her privacy, I will use another name for her. I will call her Annie. And we are going to analyze, first of all, her natal chart in general. And after that, we are going to talk about prediction. So basically, you can see how in real life it works and how you can use it also for yourself or the charts that you would like to analyze. Now, keep in mind that these are some in-depth techniques, and if you cannot handle with all of this at the same time, don't worry. It takes time, it takes practice. That's perfectly normal. So today, most of the time, you won't be able to see me. I will share my screen, and you will be able to see the different charts, which we are going to use, of course, starting with the natal chart. And the first thing I would like to mention here is that before you start with the prediction, you always have to analyze the natal chart before that. Even if the question looks very simple, very clear, it's still highly recommended to analyze the natal chart before that, because the natal chart shows you what's possible for someone and what's not possible to happen, and which are the general tendencies or challenges or talents. Because, for example, let's say that you have someone having great indications, let's say transit Jupiter in 10th house, let's say also another positive aspect. For some people, this transit may represent, becoming famous, becoming really successful. But in order to say that, you need to find first the indication that this is possible. For another person, this may just be a time for, some nice opportunities when he may have support from authority figures. Things are nice at business, but not so significant results. So the general rule here is we always start with the natal chart. And I highly recommend you to do the same before you move to making predictions, transits, progressions, and everything. So we have a volunteer, as I told you. We are going to analyze her chart. And of course, thanks to everyone who sent me their details. Thank you very much, guys. If you like those lives, those webinars, if you find them helpful, I'm ready to do them regularly. So please let me know if you want this to be on a regular basis, and the volunteers can send me their details, their questions, and we are going to analyze them live. Of course, as you can understand, I cannot do this with everyone. I'm choosing something interesting, something that will, show you how actually to approach the analysis. But of course, I'm really grateful to everyone who participates. So let me now move to at the end of the video, I will tell you my email where you can send me the details for the webinar. And of course, for everyone who wants a private personal reading with me, you can find the link in the description below this video. So if you allow me now, I will share my screen. Okay, you should be able to see my screen now. And here we can all see Annie's chart. Let me just take care of some technical stuff here. Okay. This is the natal chart of the woman that we are going to analyze. Let me show you the information that she has sent me. So her name, which is not visible here to keep her privacy. So here are her questions. What's my purpose in life as I'm totally directionless? I'm struggling at the moment to find work. And the second question is, why have I been experiencing so much hurt and pain throughout my life? Will my life get better, Marina? So these are the main questions. The first one is a regular question about career, very typical. The other one is not so regular, and actually the second question requires the natal chart analysis. Of course, we are going to use also the predictive techniques, but the main answer to this question, why this woman is struggling, why she's suffering, why there is pain in her life, we can find in the natal chart. So let me show you my approach. Now keep in mind, guys, that right now I'm not able to see your comments. I have to open here. So from time to time, I will come here to check the comments. Please feel free to share your opinions about this chart. After that, I will go through the comments and pay attention. So if you have some comments, please share them with us. So let's go back to our chart. The first step when you're trying to analyze the natal chart of a person is related to the balance of the astrological elements. It's very basic, but it's extremely important. And here, this table shows us the elements in this chart. This column here shows the fire planets. Here we can see the air, water, and earth planets. So basically, the most important here is that we have no earth planets in this chart. Generally, when certain element is missing, there is some kind of lack. Something is not enough. It's not necessarily, by the way, something bad or something, bringing incredible challenges, but this is something specific. So always pay attention if you have if there is a certain element which is missing from the chart. For example, I don't have air element, and I can definitely say it's important in my case. And in Annie's chart, we can say she has no earth planet. The earth element is the one which brings stability, which makes things consistent, long-lasting, practical. So very often people with no earth planet, they experience some level of instability in their life. That's one thing. And the other thing is that very often those people struggle with finishing the things that they have started. Completing the things. This is usually a challenge. Of course, we have to analyze different things, but here we can see also Uranus is very strong, which also increases this tendency. We can say that probably this woman will go through many changes during her life. She may experience this as a lack of stability and security. And also she may have challenges with finishing the things that she starts, especially when she loses interest. And usually this brings problems for the person if he's incapable or unwilling or unmotivated to finish the things he starts. It's very hard to achieve success. Now, on the other hand, what can compensate the lack of earth energy in this chart is the fact that the ascendant is in Capricorn and the south node is also in Capricorn. Capricorn is one of the earth signs. So basically, this is what can help this woman. Those Capricorn qualities may keep her, down to earth. And after all, she needs that stability. Even though it's difficult to achieve, she needs that. Okay, and the dominant elements in her chart are water and air, 4 planets in water and air signs. We can say that probably the air element is a little bit stronger because the sun is in this element, but on the other hand, the moon is in the water element, which is also important, especially for a woman. So almost equally important are the air and the water elements. These are the elements which are related to connecting with others. The air and water signs are also called sensitive signs. The fire and the earth signs are called constructive signs. In this chart, we can see that the dominant, most of the planets are in the sensitive signs. And this usually makes the person more interested in building up fulfilling relationships, communication with others. It doesn't make the person necessarily communicative, by the way, but this is important for him. And also, usually those people are soft. Water and air are elements which don't make people, harsh or aggressive or something like that. Usually these are people who are soft. Sometimes they may have challenges with their personal will, but of course we need to analyze also other things. Not based on that, we cannot make this final conclusion. Okay, so strong water, of course, makes her very sensitive, very emotional, increases her imagination, and the air element makes her really oriented on connecting, which again doesn't mean that it's easy for her to connect with others, but on certain level she needs that connection. And also usually those people have ideas, they are really mentally active. Okay, so the next step in our analysis is related to the astrological configuration of the chart. Literally, it means how the planets are placed. And there are different types of astrological configurations. This is also something fundamental and extremely important, which can change completely, some other indications. So in our case, this type of configuration is called a bundle, or sometimes I call it a knot, but I think the bundle is the most popular name. Basically, we have this type of configuration when all of the planets are gathered within 120 degrees or close to that. Sometimes it's not exactly, but in this case, it's almost exact. A very specific type of configuration, which makes the person from one side more closed. And also, these people usually depend on others. They depend on, the outer circumstances. It's very important for them to be surrounded and by the right people and to be supported by them. Usually, these are not people who can achieve everything on their own. Which, by the way, isn't always, it doesn't mean this is something bad. It means, just how things are. Also, very often those people are can have interest in spiritual stuff, not 100%, but very often, because they're more interested on what's happening on an inner level, on the inside. And usually it provokes an interest in, all kinds of spiritual stuff. Also, something specific for this type of configuration is that those people are capable of incredible focus. If they are interested in something, they can become extremely focused on that, sometimes obsessed. Of course, in order to say that the person can be obsessed, we also need to find other indications. But generally, the bundle configuration makes people capable of focusing and being extremely devoted on something concrete. And usually they are more focused on certain area of their life, which doesn't mean that this area is the same during their whole life. This may change over time. But for those people with the bundle configuration, it's It's challenging to be equally focused and successful in different areas at the same time. For example, at certain period, they may focus more on their relationships, build up a family, have children. After that, they can become more focused on career or social realization. But usually the focus is in one direction. It's difficult to be, equally focused on everything. But keep in mind that these are the people who can achieve really significant results. Because if you're trying to be equally focused on many things, usually it brings distraction. The energy is not so focused. So think about the laser, the focus is so concrete, and that's why it's so powerful. If you try to cover, a bigger space with it, the concentration is not so intense, and it's very logical. To be successful in something, especially if you want to be really successful in something, you have to be 100% devoted on that. That's, also from life experience, not only from astrology. So anyway, here we have a person who is capable of intense concentration. Also, okay, let's finish with the configuration, then we'll talk about the concentrations. The next thing we need to analyze, the first and the last planet of the chart. In this chart, the first planet is Mars. The first planet defines what can motivate the person and how he tends to start things in his life in general. And also this position makes the planet stronger. So here we have an interesting case. From one side, this planet is Mars. So we should expect that this woman has a strong personal will, is focused on taking action, maybe even willing to compete with others, maybe even, willing to show that she is strong, that she is a warrior, that she is brave. But here we have something specific. Mars in this case is intercepted, which can change a little bit this interpretation. Let me remind you what the interception means. As you can see here, the cusp of 7th house is 28 degrees in Cancer. The next house is 27 degrees in Virgo. And here in this red color, you can see the sign Leo. Basically, there is no cusp of a house here in Leo, and it makes the sign intercepted. Generally, the interception brings challenges, first of all, for the area, for the house where we have the interception. And if you have a planet intercepted, usually it's more difficult to materialize things or to use the energy of this planet. But the important thing about the interceptions is that the person still has this potential, but it's something like a locked potential, like a talent which he is not so used to connect with. And usually the interceptions are unlocked, figuratively unlocked, of course, when we get older. In some case, not 100%, of course, but the older people get, the more they're capable of unlocking this potential. So we can say that Annie has the potentially strong personal will, which she may not be in touch with, probably. And sometimes this may result as, some kind of hesitations. Maybe, she's, not always taking action whenever she wants to. And definitely she may feel unconfident in her actions, in herself. But during time, with years, this may change. And she may feel more and more confident. And she may unlock this potential. Also, I would like to remind you that the interceptions are always in pairs. Whenever you have certain sign intercepted in one house, the opposite sign is always intercepted in the opposite house. So generally, this brings These interceptions can bring challenges in the area of relationships, first, seventh house. And if you pay attention, she has also another interception. Just let me finish with the configuration before we move to that. So that's about the first planet of the configuration. The last planet in her configuration is Neptune. The last planet shows how you can finish the things that you start, what kinds of results the person wants to achieve, and generally, his goal. When Neptune is the last planet of the configuration, I have noticed that very often people feel confused about their goals. That's the lower level of manifestation of Neptune. It brings confusion, it blurs things, it can even unmotivate people. Sometimes it can make them lazy or losing interest at some point. So that can be true for Annie, but also Neptune can have a much more different influence. It can be extremely spiritual, and it can provoke the person to try to achieve something idealistic. He may have really spiritual goals, to help others, to do something for others, to make some sacrifices. So also keep in mind that during time, with years, Neptune can change its influence. So for Annie, we can say that it's completely normal that at some point she may feel confused or not in touch with her desires, or literally she may feel lost sometimes. And one of the important things that she should be trying to achieve is helping others, and those spiritual goals when you're trying to become better and improve life, and which sometimes can be too idealistic, but the goal for that really helps us to become better people. So very interesting case. Now also let me mention about this other interception. So we saw that Mars is intercepted in Leo, but we have also another interception. Here, pay attention that the cusp of 8th house is 27 degrees in Virgo. And the cusp of 9th house is 7 degrees in Scorpio. And here in the purple color, we can see the sign Libra. No cusp of a house here, so we have interception of another sign. And here we have the Sun, Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, all intercepted. Generally, having so many planets intercepted can make it, well, very difficult for the person to reveal his potential, especially when the Sun is intercepted. The person may feel like he's incapable of revealing his full potential, or others are not capable of seeing him or seeing his talent. So this is a tough position, definitely. But again, as we said, with time the interceptions can be unlocked, and probably when Annie is young, her personal will and confidence won't be strong. Actually, she may have lots of doubts in herself. She may avoid the risks. She may have fears and lots of other, possible challenges. But with time, this may change. And she may get more in touch with herself and her personal will, and this may really help her later in life. Also, this interception in second, 8th house can bring challenges in the area of finances and resources of all kinds. And here I would like to mention something important about having your Sun in 8th house. Just let me check if everything is okay. Okay, I see that you are here with me, guys. Everything is okay with the technical part. So back to Annie. The Sun in 8th house generally is considered to be a weak position for the sun, because the sun represents our confidence, our true self, our identity. Eighth house makes us depend on others. Eighth house is not only the money of our partner, but generally our interaction with other people, the energy of other people. So people with the sun in eighth house, they tend to, depend more on others. Very often it manifests as financial challenges for the person. Not 100% again, but very often. Also, this can bring more critical situations for the person. He needs to transform a lot of things. He needs to change things. He may go through some dramatic, challenging experiences. And especially in the horoscope of a woman, a very typical scenario when the sun is in eighth house is that at some point those people need to learn to handle with life on their own. Very often these are women who for some reason, may have certain relationship or marriage, or live with someone, they have children, and after that they need to handle on their own, taking care also for their child, and they may struggle with finding the right person, but that continues until they learn to handle on their own. And later in life, at some point, those women usually become stronger, they become confident, they learn that they need to rely only on themselves. And at some point, they even say, very often, not always, of course, but very often they say, well, I don't need a man anymore. I don't need a partner to take care of me anymore. And usually that's the time when they find the right person. But very often, women with sun in eighth house, they need to learn to handle on their own. Again, it's not 100% recipe for everyone, but very common scenario. So generally we should say that Annie needs to learn to depend on herself, not to rely on someone else to support her. And this is not always about money. Very often this is about, depending financially on others, but also it's about emotions and energy. Those women need to learn uh, not to depend energetically, emotionally, psychologically on their partner. Because, if they wait for someone else to save them, to take care of them, usually life puts them in very severe situations in order to teach them. But again, we know that everything is for the good. So even if that's your scenario, you should accept it and believe that this is, the right lesson for you, just like for Annie. By the way, in this case, I'm not sure. We don't have the information whether she has ever been married or if she has children. It's quite possible, in my opinion, for her to have a child with this high moon here on MC. It's quite possible that she may have, but we don't know that. But anyway, what we can say for sure is that she needs to find her true self. She needs to connect with herself, with her personal power, and she needs to search for that inside. She shouldn't, wait for someone to come and save her. And here we mentioned that the bundle configuration very often makes people depending on others. So this might be a challenge for her, but it doesn't mean that this is impossible, of course. Also, you can see that she has the sun in conjunction with Saturn. Okay, it's not burned Saturn because it's more than 3 degrees orbit. But anyway, Saturn is really close to her sun. Jupiter is also here. Jupiter supports the sun. And Pluto is in conjunction with all of those planets. So she has a large stellium in 8th house. Generally, this can bring also fears, this can bring anxiety, this can bring painful experiences and serious transformations. But these people like Annie, they are capable of handling with all of that, and they can be very good managers when it comes to handling with critical situations. Those people, they can, they get in touch with their power through facing with challenging situations. So these difficulties are making her stronger, even though she may has, those doubts and worries and fears. And yeah, things are not simple with this type of horoscope. Also, we can see that she has another stellium in Scorpio, including her moon in a close conjunction with Uranus and also Venus here. So, this is a person with a very strong Scorpio Pluto energy. Look at this. The Sun in conjunction with Pluto in 8th house, and also another stellium, including the moon in Scorpio. So we have a person with incredibly strong Pluto Scorpio energy. These are people who are very strong, even if they don't know it, they are. And they are capable of, making incredible transformations throughout their lives. But usually it also brings some painful experiences. Usually that's how things happen. Also, her moon in Scorpio, generally, the moon is very important for everyone because it shows how the person sees the outer world, especially the close world around him. If, the outer world is a safe place or a dangerous place, is it stable or not? The moon is very important for all of that. And the moon in Scorpio is in a very challenging position because the moon is exalted in the opposite sign, Taurus. So the moon in Scorpio is not feeling comfortable. Usually those people, it's very difficult, first of all, for them to relax. They feel inner tension, they can feel anxiety, they may have fears, they may feel threatened by the outer world, they may feel like, people want to hurt them, like the world is not a friendly place. But here we have to mention something very important. The horoscope shows how the person sees the outer world. It's like a filter. And it's not necessarily what, reality is, but that's how the person feels. So the moon in Scorpio can make the person, more sensitive, more worried, more suspicious. And generally, we can say that Annie may have some trust issues in general. Again, one of the indications is this stellium in 8th house, Saturn, Pluto with the Sun, the moon in Scorpio, the ascendant in Capricorn, together with the other indications, can also make her really suspicious. It might be very difficult for her to open up for other people. And of course, we are not judging, we are not blaming. Everyone has his own, reasons and path, and it doesn't mean that this is something bad. Also, as we said, the moon is in conjunction with Uranus, very close conjunction. This is not a positive combination. Uranus can really hurt the moon and can make the person feel, well, really unstable. Emotional instability also. Also, he may feel like, there are so many changes, like, there are constantly things changing in some way, and it's difficult for the person to adapt to new circumstances. One of the reasons for the challenging adaptation is that her moon has a very low speed. The speed of the moon generally, literally actually, means how many degrees the moon will go through for this day when the person was born. Typically, the speed of the moon is between 12 degrees and 15 degrees. On average, 13 and a half degrees. In Annie's case, we can see 11 degrees, 51 minutes, so less than 12 degrees. Her moon is really slow. And usually it suggests that the person is not well adaptable. For example, if you have a very fast moon, let's say more than 14 degrees, normally those people adapt easier, or it's not so challenging for them to face with new circumstances. So from one side, Annie has a slow moving moon, but together with Uranus. So even though she may not enjoy completely those fluctuations and changes, they are part of her life. And what we can recommend in such cases is for the person to search for the variety, not to try to, keep things as they are, because this South Node in Capricorn, the conjunction between the Sun and Saturn can make her, try to keep things as they are. She might be afraid of the new things sometimes, but that's not the right strategy. So intentionally, consciously, she should search for changes, for variety, for experiencing new things, for some kind of experiments. Okay, probably we can say that with those indications, there were some kind of difficult experiences also during her childhood. Very often, the moon in Scorpio, together with Uranus, represents difficulties during childhood or with the mother. And also pay attention that her moon is at the very last degree of Scorpio, the 30th degree. Generally, the last 3 degrees of each sign are considered to be critical. So the planet is not so strong, and there might be some kind of challenges in the areas which are related to this planet. It's not always, something bad or something awful or something you should be scared of, but it means that, her moon is in a specific position. From one side, essentially weak, essentially means the sign position in Scorpio is weak. Accidentally, which means the house position is strong because it's in conjunction with the cusp of 10th house. And the last degree also makes the planet weak. So very specific position for the moon, very, very specific. And we can also suggest that probably motherhood will be a specific area for her, possibly also bringing, some intense experiences or changes, or at least some serious transformations. Guys, please let me know if what I'm saying is, clear, and if it makes sense for you. Is it too complicated? Is it helpful? Please let me know in the comments while we are moving forward. How do you feel with all of that? Hopefully, you can. Okay. Thank you very much for everyone who responds. Okay, this might be a lot. I know that there are many things that we are analyzing, but keep in mind that, people are complicated. And that's why also the horoscope is complicated. And sometimes we have, contradictory indications, and we need to learn how to, understand them. So yeah, there are many things that we need to analyze, but this is something that we can handle with. Okay, and also one thing that is important, her feminine planets are in weak positions. Both the moon and Venus are in Scorpio, and they both, feel uncomfortable in this sign, which can also, bring challenges related to her feminine energy. It might be, kind of unbalanced, or she may need to work more with that. And definitely, strong, intense emotions, possibly also emotional instability. Okay, about her lunar nodes, very important. The lunar nodes are, well, I would say one of the most important indications in someone's chart. And when someone asks you, or if you are wondering uh, how, to help yourself, how to improve your life, what's your mission, what you're supposed to do, the answer is in your lunar nodes. The south node represents the past qualities that the person already has, areas where he has developed in previous incarnations in the past. The north node represents our lesson, the direction that we should take, what we should learn. It's usually difficult, it usually takes time. There might be some fears or uncertainty related to this, but it's also very important. So Annie has her south node in Capricorn in first house. First of all, Capricorn can make her even more unwilling to change. She may like to keep things as they are. She may look very serious on life. There are also other indications, of course. Saturn with the Sun, those, guys here together with the Sun can make her really serious about life. Sometimes more pessimistic, sometimes more, capable of seeing the things that might go wrong, or what's not right. Also, south node in first house makes people more focused on themselves, more, interested in doing things according to their own desires. And also, it might be more difficult for them to be in a relationship, to partner with someone else. And the North Node in Annie's horoscope is in Cancer in seventh house. By the way, also in conjunction with the house, the cusp of the house. Also very important. First of all, Cancer as sign means that she needs to learn to connect emotionally with other people. She needs to learn to allow herself to be vulnerable, to have close emotional connections. Also, of course, family issues should be important, but mostly the area of emotions. And because this node is in seventh house, it means that the area of relationships is where she will learn, or she can, gain those qualities. So emotional close connection with another person who is equal to her, where she's not a leader, she's not doing things on her own, she's working, and I'm saying figuratively working, or having a partnership with another person. And she allows herself to be vulnerable and emotionally connected with that person. Of course, the first thing that comes to our mind is, having a romantic partner, but sometimes this can be a challenge. And the first step, for example, if the person says that he struggled with finding a romantic partner, or a committed relationship, in this case our advice is for her to try to establish such close emotional relationships with friends. It could be with women, it's completely okay, but to be emotionally closely engaged and connected with another person. And through figuratively exercising that, or practicing that, maybe is the better expression, through practicing that, she can also eventually she can attract a partner. Because normally we can expect that with the North Node in seventh house, well, this is an area where she has some lessons. So probably it won't be so easy for her. And very often also, when you see that the nodes are in conjunction with the cardinal houses, meaning first, seventh, or fourth, 10th, It doesn't matter which node with which of those houses, but when you see that, usually that's an indication that this person will go through a very serious transformation during this life, meaning that he can move to another level in his spiritual growth, his personal growth. It's not so simple to explain it, with simple life examples, but on a spiritual level, this is a very important life with very important lessons. So the most important thing is that she has the lesson to transform herself. There is a meaning in all of those painful experiences. You know what? I have noticed that one of the most painful things in someone's life is if they feel like, their life is pointless, or there is no meaning in their life, in their experiences, like, they're suffering for nothing. That's not the case. I would like to, encourage you that everything has a meaning, even if we can't find it, even if it's not so obvious. And growth comes usually through pain or through, some serious work. So I think that Annie has some serious work to do during this life. And people with two stelliums, generally, they have potential, they have some talents. So she definitely has some potential and some talents, but probably because of the interceptions, they might be unlocked later in her life. Okay, let's see. Now, a couple of things about concrete areas before we move to the prediction. First of all, let's continue with the area of relationships. We see that we have Cancer here on the cusp of seventh house, which is the most important house when it comes to serious relationships, and it means that the moon rules this house. The moon is in conjunction with Uranus. Venus is also in conjunction with Uranus. So generally, we can say that there might be lack of stability in Annie's personal life. Sometimes this may work as, being in a relationship with people who don't want to commit, or maybe, who are not available, or there are other circumstances which are preventing the relationship to be serious and long lasting. Generally, in those cases, I recommend those people to try to build up a more untraditional relationship. Also, in this case, I would definitely recommend, to skip the marriage, the official marriage. You can live together with someone, but without the official signature, because that's the Saturn thing, and Uranus doesn't like Saturn. So generally, if those people get officially married and Uranus is very strongly affecting their seventh house, usually it brings separations, possible separations, not always, of course. So we can recommend her to try to build up a more untraditional relationship. For example, very often I have seen in those cases that the woman has a partner who is traveling frequently and they are not together all of the time. This is a very positive way to work with this with this aspect. Or to try to build up a more spiritual connection. That's a very, a huge topic about Uranus and the different levels of manifestation. And just with a couple of words, on a very low, on a material level, Uranus has a destructive influence. So, it brings sudden events, unexpected, stressful, shocking events. In relationships, the low manifestation of Uranus also brings instability. But on a higher level, Uranus brings intellectual connection, not necessarily, sexual or physical. Usually there isn't of that with Uranus, but very strong intellectual mental connection and common or mutual spiritual interests. So if Annie finds a person who, first of all, is a friend to her or who shares similar interests, she is more capable of having a stable relationship. And if she hasn't found this person yet, she shouldn't be discouraged because, as we said, the North Node very often brings delays. So, where your North Node stays in your horoscope usually is an area where things will happen later for you. Or, it's kind of a painful place, but very important, and you shouldn't avoid it. Okay, and also Mars here. Mars in seventh house, well, it really depends on the aspects of Mars. Generally, it can bring more passion, intense emotions, especially when Mars is in a fire sign, like in Annie's case, we see Mars in Leo. But sometimes, it can bring a competition, like, we are trying to, well, fighting for the leader place in our relationship, or attracting people who are more aggressive, or constantly having those arguings, confrontations, sometimes, not always, but sometimes possible violence. So 50-50 situation. And in Annie's case, we can see that Mars has a square with Venus. So in relationships, this can bring jealousy, this can bring, again, very strong passion, very intense passion, but also some dramatic experiences. This type of square, Leo, Scorpio, I have noticed that this is a square which always brings dramas. Even if you have, other planets, like, let's say, your sun and, oh, well, it could be Mars, or even with another planet. The square between Leo and Scorpio very often brings dramas. And also, when it comes to her personality, Venus and Mars and the square between them usually also suggests that the person doesn't take action according to his desires. Venus is the planet which represents what we want, our personal desires, and Mars is our personal will, or Mars is the servant, the servant of the sun, but also with Venus. So basically, Mars is the planet which helps you to get mobilized and do something when you want to have something. And when you have a challenging aspect between Mars and Venus, especially if Mars is weak, and in Annie's case, we can see Mars is intercepted, so there is a challenge here. Usually it suggests that, the person, doesn't take action according to his desires. He may feel that some kind of outer obstacles, or maybe sometimes people who, are in some way interfering with that, but generally it also brings those challenges. Okay, so we definitely see some challenges in the area of relationships. Also, keep in mind that because Venus is in conjunction with Uranus and the Moon, the fact that Venus makes square with Mars means that indirectly Mars has square with Uranus and the Moon as well, even though the orbit is larger. So this can also, bring challenges and possible instability. But the fact that her North Node is here means that this is the area where her lessons are. And she shouldn't, give up on that. Also, usually when women have a very strong moon, it means that motherhood and generally the woman's role is very important for them. Now, when it comes to career, Annie has also Cancer on the cusp of sixth house. So everything that we said for this moon, the conjunction with Uranus, the conjunction with Venus, the possible instability may also be true for her career direction. This may also affect her health, by the way. Generally, this is another topic. I don't want to get into details, but in this case, she really needs to pay attention to her female organs, breasts, gynecological organs, and possibly also the stomach. This is something, again, we cannot, give concrete diagnosis or something like that. We can just recommend the person to, pay more attention to his health regarding those organs and systems. Okay, but when it comes to her work, we can see that also she has a very strong potential or talent to help others. First of all, Cancer on the cusp of sixth house, and also the moon in 10th house. So I think that one of the best areas where she can be successful is through supporting others, helping others. Of course, the first thing that comes to mind is working with children. Also, anything related to food, beverages, restaurants, hotels, these are areas where she can be successful. But especially when it comes to, helping others, I think that this is the area where she can be truly successful, especially with children. This is not, part of her questions, but I just wanted to mention my opinion. And because Uranus is here, probably there will be, changes in her career. She may feel this as, lack of stability. But if she consciously search for variety and changes, and she's trying to change herself on a regular basis, she may actually avoid experiencing those as some outer events, which is usually more stressful. Okay, so this is our general analysis of this chart. And I think that we covered one of the questions, why she has, why she has suffered, why there are painful experiences, mostly because the Sun is in conjunction with Saturn and Pluto in 8th house, and also she has a stellium in Scorpio. Usually these are combinations which bring difficult events, but the person has also incredible inner power, and she will get in touch with this inner power probably later in life because of those interceptions. So we have, and we cannot promise this person that, everything one day will become, smooth and cloudless and simple. But to be honest with you, no one, has everything perfect in their life. And we shouldn't be afraid of that. But we can say that uh, after some years pass, or the older she gets and the more she connects with her inner power and confidence, the more she will unlock this potential, and she will be capable of revealing her full potential. So let me just come check you guys. About her age, yeah, the age is not a secret. Her age, well, she's almost 37 years old. So in a couple of days, she will become 37 years old. And we will discuss that because this is also very important. Okay, let's move to our prediction. Okay, let's start with, well, let's start with her progressions. Okay, so here you can see Annie's progressed chart for the current moment. So we need to analyze that, but also we should pay attention to how the progressed planets connect with the natal planets. And this chart will show us that. So here the inner circle shows the natal planets. And this outer circle here shows the progressed planets. So both of those things are important. I mean, the progressed chart itself and also how it connects with the natal chart. First thing which I think is extremely important. This is her progressed moon. Her progressed moon has literally a couple of days has entered Aries. The progressed moon is very important, especially for women, especially in Annie's case, we saw that her natal moon is very strong. So you always need to pay attention to your progressed moon. The progressed moon stays in one sign between 2 years and a half up to 3 years, between 2 and 3 years, depending on the speed again in the progressions. So when the progressed moon changes the sign, usually it affects our emotionality, how we feel. Very often it's related also to changes in our in the surrounding area, in how we connect with others. So very important. And up until now, let's check for how long actually. Her progressed moon has been in Pisces. So from August 2016, so more than 2 years, a little bit more than 2 years, her progressed moon has been in Pisces. Generally, when the progressed moon is in Pisces, people may feel kind of lost. They may feel unmotivated in achieving, success on an outer level, or even if they want to, they don't know how exactly to do that. They might be over emotional, oversensitive, too vulnerable, unconfident. Of course, it also has positive manifestations for spiritual work, for personal growth, for, getting in touch with your emotions, focusing more on your inner world. Of course, that's terrific. But usually I have noticed that people struggle with some things when the progressed moon is in Pisces. Again, not 100%. I also remember my progressed moon when it was in Pisces, keeping in mind that my natal moon is also in Pisces, and honestly, I didn't feel really comfortable during this period. So generally, this is, the ending phase of certain cycle, because Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. So she's completing certain cycle in her life. And the very end of something, this is the, like they call it, the dark night of the soul. Generally, we can say that this is kind of a topic in her life because of how her natal chart is. But also having the progressed moon in Pisces in 12th house, and pay attention, guys, that in the progressions, the moon is also intercepted when it's in Pisces. She can definitely feel lost during this time. And again, this is part of the healing process. It doesn't mean that this is a lost time, that this is something bad, even though we may experiencing this as, a challenging period. And as we said, recently, I will check exactly when. So literally yesterday, guys, on the 25th of September, today is the 26th of September. So yesterday, her progressed moon has entered Aries. That's one of the biggest shifts that you can possibly feel. The difference between Pisces and Aries is huge. And first of all, she may, start to feel more and more confident in herself. Aries is the sign of the warrior, the soldier, the fighter, the person who takes action, the person who, fights with circumstances. It's not always an easy progression, because sometimes people are exhausted from overcoming things, fighting with things. But I think that in Annie's case, this will bring some kind of relief. This progression will help her to be more confident, to feel more capable of taking action. One of the most frustrating things I have noticed in someone's how they feel and their life is if they feel one hopeless or the other thing powerless, like they're incapable of changing things. Now with the progressed moon in Aries, Annie can find her inner confidence. And keep in mind, it doesn't mean that yesterday she has woke up and life is completely different and I'm the soldier and I can fight with everything. Usually it doesn't happen like that. Usually it takes some time. It may take a month, it may take even more, but slowly she will start to feel more and more connected with that. So I'm very optimistic because of this progression. And also, as we said, the moon is no longer intercepted in the progressions. Another reason why she may feel more capable of changing things, like, there are more things under her control, because the interceptions, they usually make people feel like, things are, well, outside of their control, which usually, might be the case. So we really like this progression here. Also, pay attention that the progressed moon is currently making trine with her Uranus. Also, an indication which suggests that she can make a change in her life. She may get excited about something. She may get inspired to do something to transform her life. So this is a very, very supportive aspect, especially for someone who feels hopeless or lost or bored or overwhelmed. Uranus can bring this energy and excitement and desire to change things. So we are optimistic. Another thing in her progressions, her progressed Mercury is on the 29th degree in Libra. You may, if you noticed, her natal Mercury is 4 degrees Scorpio. So if you're wondering how is that possible that her Mercury is right now before the natal Mercury, basically 29 degrees in Libra, it means that at some point her progressed Mercury has been retrograde, which lasts approximately 20 years. And that's why it can go, back before the natal Mercury. But anyway, right now her Mercury is on the 29th degree in Libra. As I told you, the last 3 degrees are considered to be critical. And that's true not only in the natal chart, but also in the progressions. So usually, the person may feel kind of, tired with the things which this planet represents. Mercury is very often related to our work. Mercury is very often related to our friendships, how we connect with others, our general, surrounding area. So usually when Mercury in the progressions is in the last 3 degrees, people are searching or at least feel the need to make change very often. And it's completely normal to feel frustrated with career, with, their friendships or other things. And of course, the change will come when the progressed Mercury enters the next sign, or Scorpio. This should happen next year. Let's check exactly when. So during September 2019, her Mercury will make ingression in Scorpio. And pay attention that her progressed moon will enter first house in the progressions. So we can expect that this will be a very significant period. It doesn't necessarily mean that it will happen during this very month. It might be a little bit before that, little bit after that. Generally, those changes might be felt even 1 year after that. But this is kind of a new beginning for her. Both progressed Mercury, progressed Mercury makes ingression, the progressed moon enters first house. So we can expect that after September 2019, she might be, she may get more she may become more socialized with others. She may change her career. She may find a new direction. Very often, when your progressed Mercury changes its sign in the progressions, I mean, this represents change in your way of thinking, in your way of communication, in your friendships. And again, it may take time. It doesn't mean that, immediately you change your friends. However, sometimes it may happen, especially when people relocate, because sometimes this progression may also indicate relocations. But in one way or another, the person changes his way of connection with others, and very often his interest when it comes to work. Okay, let's see other. Here, by the way, I'm looking in those aspects. We can see here around November, December 2018, and also January 2019. Her progressed moon will make square with her progressed Venus. Generally, this may bring some kind of frustration on an emotional level or some kind of changes, sometimes challenges, which might be about her personal life or also may indicate changes in the area of career. So this is possible. It's not always something bad, by the way, because the moon and Venus are both positive planets. So sometimes it just indicates changes, not necessarily, some problems, but sometimes, this is also kind of emotionally frustrating. Okay. So from what we see here, there are, lots of changes happening in her life. From now, from this very moment, and 1 year from now as well. Let's look at her, well, yeah, how the progressed planets connect with the natal planets. Let me return. Okay. The situation for this very moment, again, I repeat, the inner circle shows the natal chart, the outer circle shows the progressed planets. So currently the progressed moon is in her second house. And right now, this combination, Aries in second house, suggests that probably she will be really focused on on earning money with her own efforts. Financial independency will be very important for her, I would say, during the next 2 years at least. And she might be really focused on that. Generally, this is supportive, by the way. Even though this may feel as kind of a, struggle and the need to overcome things, after all, the person finds the needed strength and energy to achieve that. So generally, we can expect that during the upcoming 2 years, Annie will be really focused on earning her own money with her own efforts, and the more independent financially she becomes, the stronger she will feel. Okay. Okay. A period when she needs to be more careful with finances. First of all, around April, May, June, July, her progressed moon will make opposition with her natal sun, which is in 8th house. So this is a period when some financial changes might come up. She needs to be more careful, even though this is not, a bad aspect. However, she needs to be more careful with that. And after that, let me see here. July, August, and part of September 2019, her progressed moon will make opposition with her Saturn, with the natal Saturn. You can see this here. Progressed moon in second house, opposition with Saturn in 8th house. This might be a challenging period for her. Emotionally, also financially, she needs to be more cautious with things and expenses and to plan basically things better. But then things look easier. So these are the periods when she needs to be more careful. And around the end of 2019, December 2019, also January and February 2020, her progressed moon will make trine with her natal Mars. This is a very harmonious aspect which can help her mostly in the area of relationships. Also keep in mind Mars is the ruler of her progressed moon, which makes the aspect even more important and positive. So we can expect, first of all, that this will be a positive period when it comes to building up a romantic relationship or improving her relationships in general. And also a period when she can feel braver, she can take action, she can feel and be more independent. So definitely significant changes. Let's look now at the transits. Um, Someone says the North Node matures about the age of 43. I have a slightly different opinion about that. And actually, we will discuss this right now because this is important in Annie's chart. When it comes to the nodes, the periods which are extremely important are when the transit nodes return to their natal positions. The first time it happens is when we are approximately 18 years and a half, 18, 19 years old. The second period is around the age of 37 years. And in my experience, actually, the second return of the North is more important because we have more experiences. When we are 19 years old or 18 years old, we are almost kids. So we are not so conscious. Probably there are people who are, but for most of the people, they are too young to be connected with their North Node. But the second return, when we are 37 years old, is usually a very, very important period. And this is the time usually when there are changes related to the houses where where the nodes are in general. So here in this chart, the inner circle shows Annie's natal chart. The outer circle shows the transits. Currently, you can see that the nodes are about to make conjunctions with her natal nodes. Remember that the nodes are moving retrograde, so not like the planets in this direction. They're moving clockwise, actually. So here we can see the transit North Node is 5 degrees Leo, and very soon it will make conjunction with her natal node, which is 29 degrees in Cancer. This will happen literally in 2 months, in November, approximately the second half of November, the beginning of December. Generally, this is a very important period when very often people ask themselves the questions, what they have achieved and are they satisfied. This is a time of changes. This is a time when you can become more mature. And this is also in Annie's case a very important period when it comes to the area of relationships. This is the time when she may ask herself whether she needs to change something about herself, her attitude towards others, her approach to people, or how she communicates, how she connects with partners. And this conjunction actually may bring the opportunities for that. So this is a very important indication. The other thing in the transits, which is important, first of all, we already mentioned that she has this huge stellium in Libra. Sun 10 degrees, Saturn 13 degrees, Jupiter 19 degrees, Pluto 24 degrees. During the previous years, the transit Uranus made opposition with all of those planets here. Uranus was in Aries for 7 years. That's how long it stays in one sign. And during this time, it has made opposition with all of her planets in Libra. Generally, this can bring lots of instability, stressful events, unexpected situations. So it's completely normal that she has been through some, traumatic events or difficulties or instability. Also, keep in mind that during this time, Pluto, the transit Pluto, squared the transit Uranus. And of course, it squared also her planet in Libra. Now, those aspects are not over yet because Pluto currently is on the 19th degree in Capricorn. So it still has some squares to make, but at least it won't square her Sun and Saturn. This has already passed, and probably this has also been a very, difficult combination for her. So we are not surprised, that probably during the past couple of years, she has experienced, some serious changes and stressful events. Okay, the good news is that Uranus is right now in Taurus. At some point, it will make opposition with her Mercury. We will discuss that, but at least it won't square the stellium. It won't make opposition with the stellium. So, something very positive. Currently, the transit Jupiter is in Scorpio, and literally in a couple of days, it will make conjunction with her Venus, and after that, with Uranus and her Moon. This will happen a month from now, so during October and the beginning of November. Generally, of course, we are very happy to see that because Jupiter is the planet of opportunities, the planet of growth. So there might be some positive changes. First of all, related to her personal life. And so pay attention, we have the North Node in conjunction with the cusp of her 7th house and the natal node, and at the same time Jupiter making conjunction with her Venus and with the Moon, which rules 7th house. So generally we can say the next couple of months might be very positive when it comes to her personal life, when it comes to harmonizing her emotions, her feminine energy. Also, because those planets are in 9th house, we can say a positive time for traveling. And after that, the very end of October and the beginning of November, the transit Jupiter will enter her 10th house. This can be a very positive transit when she can find a job, because this is one of the questions that we had to cover. Generally, when Jupiter enters your 10th house, you can expect positive events happening in this area of your life. So we can say that probably very soon she should be able, or there might be some positive opportunities for her to start a new job. And Jupiter will stay there until January 2019. And then it enters 11th house and goes back to 10th house from June 2019 until September 2019. So these are periods which can be really positive for her career. Now, also what's interesting, there are a couple of aspects that we need to cover. Here, during December 2018, the transit Jupiter will make sextile with her Sun, but at the same time Saturn will square the Sun. So we have a contradiction here. So from one side, Saturn can bring possible challenges and restrictions, and maybe, the need to be more organized and disciplined, and, following some orders and structures and things. But on the other hand, there might be also opportunities for her. So we can suggest that, or we can, expect that probably there will be some opportunities for her, but at the same time, she needs to work hard for her results. Then during February 2019, the transit Saturn will square her natal Jupiter. You can see the aspect here as well. Jupiter rules her 10th house and her second house. So this is a time when she may have some challenges related to her work or finances, or she may feel kind of overwhelmed, or things may require more serious work and attention. But on the other hand, almost at the same time, during February, transit Jupiter makes conjunction with Neptune. Neptune rules second house, and this is positive for finances. So we can expect that, for example, she may have lots of expenses or some bills to pay, or things to cover related to her finances. But at the same time, she might be capable of earning those money because Jupiter makes conjunction with Neptune at the same time. So Jupiter really supports the situation. And after that, during April 2019, the transit Uranus will make opposition with her Mercury. This is a long-lasting transit, which will be on and off for between 2 and 3 years. And first of all, this suggests lots of changes on an intellectual level. For example, the person may completely transform his way of thinking. There might be some kind of nervousness. Usually, the stressful aspects of Uranus are challenging for our nervous system. So the person can feel restless and overwhelmed. But at the same time, when it comes to learning things, especially spiritual things, especially astrology or something like that, this aspect actually is very helpful because it just represents, the complete transformation of your mind and your ideas and your thoughts. So at least we can be sure that this will be interesting. Okay, then during June 2019, Saturn squares Jupiter again. So also a period when she need to be careful with finances and work. But Jupiter makes sextile at the same time. So we have, possible challenges, but also possible, support or positive events, or at least there will be some results coming out of this, work or efforts. Okay. And again, around October 2019, Jupiter will make another conjunction with her Neptune, which should also be positive in terms of finances. We mentioned that Neptune rules second house. And during November and December, Uranus makes opposition with her Mercury. But during December, also Jupiter will make sextile with Mercury. So a great time for learning new things, great time also for traveling, for, things that will open up her mind for a completely new world. So I hope that it's interesting for you guys. Now let me turn my camera on again. Just a second. Okay, I hope that you can see me right now. So, okay, it's okay. So I see that you have written some things. I will read them later. I hope that this example was helpful for you guys. So I know it's too much to cover, but remember, always start with the natal chart. This is what will bring you most of the answers. What's possible, what's challenging, what's, a stressful area. And after that, the major methods for predictions are progressions and transits, which we covered right now. Also, I'm using solar return charts, solar arc directions, but this will really take a lot of time, so we won't be covering that. But this is the main way to approach that. I hope it was interesting. Again, I will repeat that if you find it helpful, we can make this on a regular basis. So we can use volunteers from you guys. Again, I repeat that we are keeping your privacy. We won't use your real name. And if you're interested in being a volunteer, please send your birth details, and you need to have an exact time of birth. It's very important. And also send a short description of your life situation and two areas that you want us to focus on, or two questions that you have. You can send this to my email, marina@marstars.net. I will write it here in the comments. Hopefully you will be able to find it. Did I write it correctly? Okay, that's my email. So if you're interested in being a volunteer, please send your information to this email. If you want to have a private reading personally for you, you can find the link in the description below this video. And please let me know, what do you want us to cover? Is there anything specific that you're interested in? I will be really happy. Let me check also your comments if there are. Yeah, someone asking me about their North nodes. Tiffany, yeah, we can cover whatever you want. If you are interested, you can contact me. Um, you can find the link below the video. Of course, we can cover whatever you're interested in. Jupiter is about to transit my seventh house. Someone asks. Yeah, very interesting. We are going to talk about Jupiter. There will be a webinar about this, so keep in touch with me, and I will let you know when the registration is opened. If you're interested, of course, you are welcome. By the way, don't forget, guys, about Venus retrograde. Also, if you want to participate in the webinar and have a personal report about Venus retrograde, you can find the link below the video. The webinar is this Saturday, but of course it will be recorded, so you can watch whenever you want, even if you're watching this later, it's completely okay. Yeah, but the return of the notes is one of very important periods, definitely. For the progression, somebody asks me, I'm using the Radiar progressions. This is the method I'm using. Some people use the solar arc. I don't know. In my opinion, this method works. There are people who say that, both of them work. Maybe it's true, but I have chosen to work with the Radiar method for progressions, and in my opinion, it works. It works great. And if you don't know what that is, you don't know it. You don't need it, actually. I mean, it's more advanced. Okay, so hopefully it was helpful. It was a real pleasure for me. I absolutely love what I'm doing. I hope it helps you also to find a different way to look at your chart. and your challenges, and to find, you know, the meaning and the light in every situation. So of course we have also many topics to cover, and I will keep you posted about the next session. Maybe we can do this next week, hopefully. Let me know if you are available. If you liked those sessions, you can show it by liking the video. In this way I will know that you enjoyed those sessions. So thank you very much again for spending your time with me, and I hope I will see you really soon. Bye for now.